Welcome back to me reading the character files. Today we have Riku's story. Riku's story, my childhood friend. To tell you the truth, Sora, I was jealous of you. When did I start harboring that feeling? I thought about this. I sat next to Sora on the dark margin. Was it when Sora became a hero of the Keyblade? Or did I feel that way when we were still on the islands, from the time when we were kids? There's nothing strange about me thinking I'm higher on the totem pole than Sora. After all, an age difference of a year was huge when we were kids, and I used to act like Zora's big brother and take him places. When did that change? We defeated Zemnis, but the darkness was deep here. The realm of darkness, where we could have defeated thousands of Heartless, and they'd still keep coming. My strength nearly spent, I fell to my knees. Riku! Zora helped me up. Zora, I can't. It was difficult to breathe. I felt like I couldn't walk anymore. Don't say another word. It's not over. It's just not. He put my arm over his shoulders and stood. Zora never gives up at the times like this. How can you say that, even if we could go on? Look where we are. I felt like that was a level-headed conclusion. But Zora smiled and looked ahead of us. Come on, Riku. You've been hanging out in darkness too long. You gotta try and think positive. He started to walk. My footsteps were heavy as I leaned on him. I couldn't walk anymore. I didn't want to walk anymore. I thought, Zora? Hearing his name, Zora examined my expression with a smile on his face. When he made a face like that and in a situation like this, I had no choice but to do what he wanted. I lifted my head like Zora and gazed ahead into the darkness. You lead. Got it. He nodded, pulling me along as he walked. How far would this darkness go? I'd walked a lot of dark paths, but this might have been the first one that didn't have a way out. But even on a path like this, Zora kept walking. You know. I spoke up and Zora looked at me again. He had a pained expression on his face, and seeing this made my chest tighten. I told him something I'd never spoken of before. It was like a repentant confession. I always figured I was better at stuff than you. Really? Zora's reaction wasn't what I expected. His reply made it sound like it didn't matter to him at all. Are you mad? The question just came out of me, and Zora stopped. No, I kinda always thought you were better at everything too. It's probably natural for him to think that way. After all, just a little bit older than him. But I was proud of such a natural thing. And Zora looked up and stared at something straight ahead. Riku, look! What's that light? I also looked up. A faint but inviting light was visible from far away. We mustered the last of our strength and started walking toward it. However, the light wasn't an exit. It resembled the dim glow of a moon floating above a gloomy beach. Here we could hear the sound of waves, which reminded me of our island home. The place was otherwise enveloped in silence. End of the road. Yep. Zora quietly nodded in response to my remark. Put me down. I can walk. At this, he released my arm, and I stood up on the sandy beach as Zora took a step towards the water's edge. I watched him from behind. No exit was in sight. Even from behind him, I could sense Zora's fatigue. You know, maybe the darkness has gotten to me too, Zora murmured. Maybe he too had begun to give up on the idea of leaving this place. The thought of that made me feel a little dizzy. I fell to my knees on the beach and then just collapsed. I couldn't move anymore. Riku! Zora rushed over me and helped me up. This world is perfect for me. If this is what the world really is, justice, then maybe I should fade back into darkness. Riku, if the world is made of light and darkness, we'll be the darkness. Zora stretched his legs out and sat beside me. Yeah, the other side, the ram flight, is safe now. Kyrie, the king, and the others are there. That's what I mean. Hey, Zora, could you help me? I want to get down to the water. Zora gave a small nod, put my arm over his shoulders again, and helped me stand up. We walked slowly toward the water's edge. My legs felt as stiff as posts. At least the waves sound the same, I found myself murmuring. Maybe it wasn't terrible to end up in a place like this that reminded me of our home. I continued the conversation from earlier. What I said back there about thinking I was better at stuff than you. Hmm? Zora responded as he gazed at the sea. To tell you the truth, Zora, I was jealous of you. When I said this, he finally looked at me. What for? But for just a brief moment, when I opened my mouth to speak. This was my repentance. The reason I fell into darkness was because of my jealousy of Zora. But it wasn't his fault. It happened simply because I was weak. I wished I could live the way you do, just following my heart. After I said this, Zora gazed at the horizon as he responded. Yeah, well, I've got my share of problems too. Like what? I smiled just a little as I listened to him. Like wanting to be like you. Hmm. This saddened me a bit. I replied in the most cheerful voice I could muster. Well, there's one advantage to being me. Something you can never imitate. Really? What's that? Having you for a friend. For a moment, Suha looked astonished, and when he took a small breath, then I guess I'm okay the way I am. I've got something you could never imitate too. He smiled as he replied and looked at the horizon, the dim moon floating in the sky at the world's end. Each of us had things that only we could do. Our hearts were both filled with the same kind of happiness. I was glad to be Zora's friend. Light. I reflexively narrowed my eyes at the light shining like the morning sun before us. The door to the light. We'll go together. Zora stood up and held his hand out to me. Yeah, I answered, and the two of us began to walk. Oh? Where the hell am I? Oh, hey. Sorry. But that was chapter 2. Fun. I certainly didn't expect. Well, I did expect it to be this gay, but I didn't expect some other things. Like the entire moment with the letter was skipped, so it makes me wonder if Riku just pushed it out of his mind. Thank you for listening. I still don't know what I'm doing, but let's hope that I'll figure it out soon.